We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It's Wednesday. We have Kristen back. I know a lot of folks enjoyed it when she was here last time, wondering when she's going to be back. Today is that day. Kristen brings a whole different perspective than some of the folks we have on the show. And with what's going on these days, you're one of those people who kind of understand how to keep your wits about you, but a lot of people aren't doing that right now. People are freaking out, especially people that might be impacted by the things that Donald Trump is doing. How are you coping?
Well, thank you so much for having me back, Boomer. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Um, I have cycled through the stages of grief multiple times. And I was on the show for the first time the day after the election, and I had not
Right.
slept all night. And since then, I have gone from angry to denial, bargaining, crying. I've done it all. And I think now, especially after today, because what he attempted to do could very severely negative affect my aunt in Florida. And I am now absolutely in acceptance that this is where we are. And we have to speak up. We have to start to make our voices as loud and as clear as we possibly can. And why I came on this podcast and how I found Boomer was because I wanted to get involved when Kamala became the nominee. And I became so enraged, upset, and gobsmacked at the misinformation that was circulating on the internet and the misinformation that was being propagated by the right wing. And so I told everybody when I come on this podcast, I will always bring facts and I will have a website or someplace that you can go check what I'm talking about. So the day after the election, when I came on the podcast, I said, something's rotten in Denmark. I don't want to be like they were in 2020, but I don't think that the narcissist won fair and square. And then now, Greg Palast, you can go to his website, GregPalast.com. He is a statistician and also an investigative journalist. I saw him right after the election, and he said something's rotten in Denmark, but I need to go through all of the numbers. And so he completed his analysis of the numbers, and the election was stolen. It was stolen by voter suppression. You can see all of the numbers on that was, excuse me, I should say, that's one of the ways the election was stolen. They blocked almost 6 million people from voting from Kamala in mostly swing states. They also blocked Gen Zers, college students. They dumped them from the voter rolls or dumped their provisional ballots or refused the signature or for some reason didn't let them vote. They were all Kamala voters. And if she had gotten those votes that were actually cast for her, she would have won by an electoral landslide.
Yeah. Well, I've talked about this before. It's not surprising to me that there was some uh, sketchy shit going on, that Donald Trump cheated. If Donald Trump's involved, if the Republicans are involved, of course, there's some fucked up shit going on. But the problem we have here isn't whether or not we know they've done something. The question is, so what? Who's going to hold them accountable? And thus far, the Democrats have not been able to hold him accountable for anything.
And that's what brings me to my next point. And thank you so much for asking that question, because as we know, Democrats are useless. And we know that NATO knows what happened. Canada released their report today. They did not name names, but they basically said Pootie, Elmo, and the Orange Menace are up to no good, but they didn't mention any names. You can watch the press conference. They just released this report that with names redacted, but NATO has it. So I don't think, and we have to understand that Pootie has been stealing elections all across the country for years. There is an
Right.
estimation that just in the last year, I saw this yesterday, was showing on a map all of the democracies that have gone to authoritarianism or dictatorships. And it is speculated that he had a hand in the majority of that, that there could be up to 200 elections that he's had some sort of interference in. And so where we are right now is that we have to speak up and you need to call your representatives. And I've said this before, okay? Most likely the Republican Party is going to have to turn on him. And for that to happen, we're going to have to put the screws to them. We saved ACA, right? We saved the Affordable Care Act. I called John McCain's office multiple times. And what did he do? What did he do? So, what I suggest is it does not matter if your representative is blue or red. It does not matter. You need to call your congressperson and both of your senators. And I also suggest calling Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. I called AOC as well just to say thank you. I'm going to call Jasmine Crockett and say thank you because these two ladies are about the only two worth anything. Excuse me, Jamie Raskin as well. And then I have a story to tell about Eric Swalwell. He's another one that is, I think, a good, decent Democrat. But the older ones, they all need to go. They're useless. Writing a strongly worded letter is not going to do anything. When they stood there and clapped for him at the inauguration, I felt sick to my stomach. I can't
Yeah.
believe they went and they clapped for this clown show. So right now, this is where we are and how we can feel better. And what I can tell everybody is when you call your congressmen and your senators, you will feel better because you did something. Okay. And whatever issue is important to you is the issue you bring up. On my Blue Sky, there is a script. So I'm at Kristen Healer on Blue Sky. So if you need a script about what to say when you call your congressmen or senators, go to my Blue Sky and it's right at the top. It's like the second or third tweet in.
It's well, and you were talking about Eric Swalwell. I've talked about him here a number of times on this show because he's one of the younger guys that I like because he stands up, he says what he means, he doesn't back down. He
Yeah.
isn't like Fetterman or all these people that flop around and will side with Donald Trump. He's solidly in the fight, and you
Yeah.
had kind of a brush with greatness, so to speak.
All right, so I was really excited last night. So I have found my voice on Blue Sky. I knew Zucky was up to no good in 2016, so I started pulling back from Facebook then, and that's my largest platform. And I knew Elmo was bad news, so I started pulling back from Twitter when Elmo took over. And I never really got into Instagram too much, and I used to make YouTube videos, and I started to make them again, and I didn't enjoy talking to myself. I much rather come on the podcast and talk to you. I
Uh,
used to love making videos by myself, but I just didn't enjoy it anymore. I felt like I was just talking in a closet. So I felt like I'm getting my footing on Blue Sky, and so it's like the old Twitter days. So if anyone has been hesitant to join Blue Sky, I highly recommend it. There's a lot of like-minded folks over there, and you can actually feel a lot better when you get on Blue Sky. So yesterday, Eric tweeted, "Help me better serve you. Tell me what you will tell me, or excuse me, let me start over. Help me serve you better. Tell me what will bring you less stress." So that's what he tweeted. And when I responded, there were about 300 responses. Right now, there are 1,600. So I responded, "Eric, get on TV, podcasts, and call them out every day. Go on every Sunday talk show every weekend. Bring the facts to the people. On the Hill, start blocking and objecting loudly to everything they attempt to do." And he responded on it. And then he followed me back, and the
well,
thing is, he only follows, let's see here. So I want to make sure I have accurate numbers. He follows four people: myself, Hakeem, the CEO of Blue Sky, and the congressman who is from Long Beach, used to be the mayor of Long Beach. His name is Richie Torres, and he's really great. So, excuse me, the from the Bronx. Excuse me, he is a congressman for the Bronx. So that's another one. I was just confusing. So one of four people that he follows on Twitter on Blue Sky is me. You can tell I'm all getting all verklempt because I can't believe that he's following me. But I got his ear, and that's the point of what I'm trying to say, even though I'm bumbling my words. I got his ear. He heard me, and he didn't respond to those 1,600 people. He responded to me.
well,
And
and you make a good point that because you got his ear.
Yeah.
it was because of what you said and how you said it. Like you said, you were telling me before in these comments, well, you got to get out there and do something. The Democrats aren't doing anything. He isn't going to listen to that because it's not a real suggestion. And it's just everybody bitching and moaning. You gave him actions that you needed him to do, and he responded to that. So maybe, and I have to accept this too. Instead of just bitching, you got to say you need to do this.
Yeah.
Specifically, you need to do this. And what you told Eric Swalwell to do is exactly what he and everybody needs to do.
Yeah. And the fact that they haven't is so disappointing. And this is why we get beat. This is why we get beat. And then the Republicans crash the economy, and then we get back into office and have to clean it up. But my concern is right now is that we did not have a free and fair election in 2024. How do we think, if it goes right now the way it's going, that we're going to have a free and fair election in 2 years?
Right.
If they can dump almost 6 million people from the voter roll, and this isn't even, we haven't even scratched about the fact that he actually admitted it the night before the election on global television that Elmo rigged it for him. He actually said the word rigged twice, and then talked about, something to do with the computer and the tabulation. So this 6 million that was purged from, their vote was purged, that doesn't even count the weird tabulations of the bullet ballots, the missing million votes in Nevada, the fact that more people voted for Donald Trump in a lot of counties in North Carolina than registered voters. I mean, there are so many weird anomalies that still exist above and beyond just the voter suppression. So that's my concern in 2 years. If we haven't gotten that straightened out, how do we think we're going to get back into office?
Let me ask you a question. You made an interesting point there, how they purged votes and gerrymandering and all this sort of stuff. Me and a lot of people are complaining about the Democrats that sat on their thumbs and didn't come out to vote. Do you think a big majority of those folks are the ones that are being hampered by Russia or the
Yeah,
Republicans or the gerrymandering? Do you think maybe the people that sat out aren't quite as much as we think?
I think that less people betrayed us than we thought.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna say less people betrayed us. Yes, and if and on TikTok, the "Where's My Vote" hashtag after the election, there were literally thousands and thousands, if not millions, of people saying they were unable to track their ballot.
Right. Let me ask you this. You were talking about the investigations, whether it be NATO or Canada or whatever, and here in this country. And we can specifically show that there was some meddling, some funny business going on in the election. And the only question I have is, and what do we do now? I mean, are these investigations just to say, yeah, you got fucked. Good luck next time?
Well, this is such an important point because I've thought about this. So, what happens if NATO comes out and says the U.S. election was stolen? What happens if international bodies come out and say it or release reports and say it? What would actually happen? We don't have
Yeah.
Congress. We don't have the Senate. We don't have the DOJ. We don't have the Supreme Court. What would happen? Who was going to tell him to step down? Who's going to make him step down? The military? They're purging the military right now of anyone who's not a loyalist. So I'm not exactly sure that if even the irrefutable evidence came out by NATO saying we believe there was international interference in the American presidential election, what would actually happen? Is Mike
Yeah.
Johnson going? Would Mike Johnson do anything? No,
Oh.
no.
And it goes farther than that. I mean, he fires all the inspector generals. That's illegal, or so they say. He puts out this uh, executive order to freeze all federal funding. That's unconstitutional. Again, so what? I mean, they can take this to court and shut him down or delay it or whatever. But this is the problem I have with this country. I've been really disappointed by this country that it is far weaker than I ever imagined. I mean, you can give somebody a constitution or a subpoena from the Constitution, they don't have to come. Donald Trump can get indicted. He can delay and delay and delay and never get prosecuted for it. Uh, it seems like everything, and I'm not talking about you and me, we get fried for it, but people at a certain level that are wealthy or powerful, a combination of both, they're above the law. They get away with anything. And they're given the benefit of the doubt. And the delays are just very easy. I mean, like, for example, this judge who said, yeah, we're going to put a pause on this federal funding freeze till Monday. Why do you have to do that? It's fucking unconstitutional. Just say no. We're not doing that. What are you going to wait for an argument to make it constitutional? There is no argument.
Our checks and balances didn't hold. They barely
No.
held the first time, and they were prepared this time. I mean, I screamed from the rooftops, and you did too. Project 25, they already have it planned, they already have it written. He's just going to sign the orders, and that's exactly what's happening. Tim Walz said it multiple times too. When someone makes a playbook, they intend to use it. Hello? They told us what they were going to do. We screamed it
Yeah.
from the rooftops. Merrick Garland slow walked it. Joe Biden should have fired him years ago. The problem was there were the old people still running things, and I'm not trying to be ageist. I'm just saying the people in Congress who have been there the longest, the oldest members, they have to go. They still think you can reach across the aisle. They still think there is negotiations. They still think MAGA's normal. Joe Biden was still trying to do business as usual like he did in the 80s and 90s, and those days are over. We literally show up to meetings as Democrats ready to shake their hand when they have a knife, a fully automatic weapon, an arsenal, and they're ready to just completely annihilate us. And we're like, we can't shake hands. We can't be friends. The way Democrats approach everything of bipartisan, that is over. That doesn't exist anymore. That's the olden days.
Yeah.
And that way of thinking got us into this mess. Joe Biden didn't want it to look bad that he fired Merrick Garland. He should have fired Merrick Garland in 2021.
Absolutely.
Donald Trump should have been arrested January 7th. They attempted this mess down in Brazil, and that night they had arrested 1,500 people. Okay.
Right.
And that Bolsonaro, he is barred from running for office for 10 years because he was part of it. They tried to pull that down in Brazil right after our January 6th, and they rounded them up that night. We did such a bad job, and our justice system moved so slow, and our checks and balances did not hold up. And we also have to remember our system was written and based and created by white men who didn't want to pay their taxes and who owned slaves and who fostered children with slave girls and shipped them over to Europe so no one knew those are their kids. Okay, they grew moonshine and marijuana. They were not good men. We have to just keep saying this. The founding fathers set it up this way so that white men had the privilege. They set up our patriarchal society, and that's what we have.
Right. I know you're cautious about sounding ageist, but I'm going to be 65 in a few months. I can be fucking ageist because I'm aged. And I will tell you, old people in Congress suck. They're out of touch. They don't know how to
Totally.
fight this fight. They need to
Yep.
step aside and let the young people determine their own destiny. And especially old white men. I hate fucking old white men. Now
Yeah.
I dare you to come at to try to cancel me for
I
hating
know,
old
but
white
you,
men being
but
an old
you are
white man.
different. You're different because you have evolved. They haven't done the
True.
work on themselves. They haven't tried to have an open mind. There are some senators that don't know how to email or text. Their aides do it for them. That's
Yeah.
and when you're 80 years old, I've seen my grandparents, and my grandpa was a very young, fit 80 years old, and there's no way that he could be working the type of schedules that is demanded of you in that position. Is Nancy Pelosi
Absolutely.
85? I think she's 85. How old is Chuck
Yeah.
Grassley? I mean, he's as old as dirt.
91.
What is he doing? I'm
I don't
sorry.
know.
No, that is part of the Democrats' problem is that AOC, Jasmine Crockett, they need to be able to step up. And in Eric Swalwell, um, but the fact that we only have a handful to name is also part of the problem. Okay,
Yeah.
we literally only have a handful of them. I haven't seen Moskowitz and Goldman. I don't even know where they are. I haven't even seen them. So I don't know where they
I,
are. I've seen Jamie Raskin. He pops up. He wrote a strongly worded letter.
I have a problem with Moskowitz. He talks a good talk, but then he kind of capitulated to the Republicans a couple of times. He voted for shutting down TikTok. And then, surprise, surprise, days later, he invested in Meta. So this
Okay, I didn't
motherfucker is a
know
little
this. So,
questionable.
okay,
Yeah,
thank you. Like I said, I hadn't seen him, and so he was already on my side eye list because I wasn't seeing him speak up. So, okay, so now we're understanding. All right, so AOC has been talking about the insider trading that is going on
right.
and how it's just blatant and rampant, and that's how they're all making their money. And I also think if you're compromised in any way, MAGA knows and has already threatened you. That's what I think
Right.
happened with John Fetterman. I don't think he's clean. I think John Fetterman has skeletons in his closet. I've always thought that. I never really was for him, but we had to make sure he got in and not Dr. Oz or whoever he was running against. Um, but John Fetterman to me is compromised,
I
and
think so too.
yeah, and I think a lot of them that are capitulating. See, MAGA's really good, and Donald Trump's always been good at this. He always digs up dirt on his rivals so that he can blackmail them or destroy them. So I think a lot of Democrats got told, um, "We know your secrets, and if you don't want us to destroy your lives, kill your kids, and throw you in a gulag, you're going to do what we want."
Yeah. Well, the funny thing about it is we all know what Donald Trump has done. Nobody fucking cares. I mean, do you think there are Republicans out there now that are finally realizing? I mean, so many
I think they know
Republicans,
exactly who he is and they don't care.
well, they don't care until it hits them. I heard a lot of
Yes.
them say, well, he didn't really mean that. He wasn't crazy like that. Well, we're finding out in the last week and a half that he is crazy like that. And if he does freeze the funding, which I don't even know how you can do it, if it's unconstitutional, there should be no way that could be done. But if he does it, it's going to hit the red states worse than anybody. And I was on TikTok and I saw these young women crying that I get welfare, I get Section 8 housing, and they're taking it away. Tell me it's not true. Tell me it's not true.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? It's hard to feel sympathy for these people. If you were
Mm-hmm.
so stupid and didn't listen,
Mm-hmm.
you almost deserve what you're going to get.
I don't think that he has the support we think that he does. It's all manufactured bots.
Yeah, maybe.
It's millions and millions and millions of bots on every social media pretending to be a MAGA. And the reason why I know it's manufactured is because they're all gone.
True. That's a good point.
They're all gone. And the attacks on Kamala that were rampant on all social media are gone. All those people are gone. He does not, I would say at most he has 35-40% at most. I would say more realistically, and if you go to this website, this man Greg's website, um, she won by a landslide.
Yeah.
She won by an electoral and popular vote
Uh,
landslide.
yeah.
He does not have the support. It is all manufactured. That's part of the disinformation. It's part of the propaganda. The Republican Party hates him, but they're feckless. They're scared. They're compromised. They have their emails. Remember, their emails got hacked, right?
Right.
And the Dem emails got hacked too. They released the Dem emails, but kept the Republican emails, never got leaked. Why? It was blackmail material.
Something to put in the pocket. Something to
Yeah.
put in your back pocket. I've said this before, and I'm curious as to what you think. I think Donald Trump was an asset for the Republican Party up until the election. Now that the election is over, I see him more as a liability. All he can do is put out bad will for his party and cause his party damage, which is what he's doing. And I would not be surprised if at some point the Republicans find a way to get rid of him. And this is my point with all this stuff going on. Um, I really feel like if anything is going to be done about this, if anything is going to hold him accountable, it's almost going to have to be initiated by Republicans.
Absolutely. That's the only way. And that's why I'm telling everybody call your representatives, whether they are blue or red. It does not matter. This is not sustainable. This is
No.
not. And right now, this is the fire hose, right? They're trying to create as much chaos as they can, make everybody as upset as they can. They're just spraying the chaos around so he can consolidate more power and so he can do more atrocious things behind the scenes. And I said this in a women's group, and everyone got really upset with me. But it's happening. And it's going to happen. We're going to have concentration camps here in America where people are going to be beaten and killed. It's going to happen. It's happening. I just saw pictures of a plane that landed in Brazil with a bunch of migrants or people that were being deported, and they had all been beaten.
Right.
So what we're going to see is going to be atrocities beyond anything we can imagine. What they're going to do at the border, putting people in concentration camps, having military zones down at the border, is going to be like what happened over in Germany. The people aren't going to believe it until we see it with our own eyes. But that's where we're headed. All the Nazi stuff and all of this is planned. He did all of that. Did he make the salute? Did he not? This is all part of their plan. They're trying to slowly make it cool, slowly get everybody involved, try to create chaos so they can consolidate more and more power. They want to send home Congress, right? They want to have martial law, and they want to absolutely have a militarized border.
That's a good point you make there. With all this crazy shit he's doing, some people have said he wants to create the riots. He wants to create the protest. He wants to create the people in the streets. So that gives him the reason to enact the Insurrection Act. Do you think that's
Yeah,
true? Do you think he has enough
absolutely,
common sense
100%.
to come up with something like
100%.
that?
This is not him. This is the Heritage
True,
Foundation. They're not
true.
stupid. They have been planning this since Ronald Reagan. Okay. They sabotaged Jimmy Carter. And then they have this prayer breakfast nonsense that is certainly not a prayer that I would want to participate in.
No.
The Heritage Foundation has been planning this. They are smart, unfortunately. They are calculated. They have everything ready to go. They have had it ready to go. All they do is put it in front of him and he signs it. So, yes, he is a liability. I don't know how this is tenable for 4 years. His health certainly isn't good. But they don't want Congress. And that might be part of it. Congress is trying to get as much money as they can on the side, insider trading, whatever, because they know they're going to be out of a job. That he wants everybody out on the street so he can declare martial law, send Congress home, and have full control of everything. Just him.
Well, thankfully, Democrats aren't prone to doing that sort of thing. If it were Republicans, you might see that kind of action on the streets. I think what needs to be done is a little more targeted. I've said this before, and I'm not predicting anything. The Republicans have a problem. If they impeach him or they use the 25th Amendment, no matter what the reason is, 30% of the Republican Party is going to hate the rest of them because they did something to their Lord and Savior. The best the Republicans can hope for, assuming they want to get rid of him, and I know there's a lot of them that do, is he keels over while he's in office. Then they can try to make him a martyr or whatever the fuck he is. But that's the best outcome for Republicans, where they won't lose 30% of their constituents.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. And the
Fingers
only thing,
crossed.
yeah, I would say his health is very bad. To me, he looks very ill. He doesn't look good at all. Um, and he's morbidly obese. I mean, his health is very poor. He has those big, like, bruises on his hand, like Mitch McConnell has.
Right.
Those huge, like, bruises from IVs, or I'm not sure exactly what the blood thinner, I think, is what causes that if you've got a heart issue.
Yeah,
Um,
my grandfather had those spots on his hands when he was about 85, 90, and it's from taking Coumadin. It's a
yeah,
blood thinner for
thinner.
your heart and
Yes.
stuff like that. And then, of course, you
Yeah.
get all these bruises all over your body.
Yeah. And I mean, so his health going to make it? I mean, that's questionable. This is the thing, though. JD Vance is worse. He's worse because he is in their pocket and he actually has two brain cells left.
People always say that. Don't wish for that because JD's worse. And I'm one of these people that go, let's get rid of the big problem and then we'll deal with the
Yes, and then
second
I,
problem.
I totally agree with you on that. I totally agree with you on that. Where I say the reason why I say that is because They're both narcissists. They both are owned by the money people, and they both are just pawns for the money people.
Right.
And um, in the Orange Menace is in deep cognitive decline, and JD Vance isn't. But what I can say that I noticed right away when I saw him on TV pathologically lying is he has already aged exponentially. He is going to age so fast in the next couple of
Yeah.
years. When you lie like that every day, I mean, he was lying through his teeth. He was literally sweating. His face was getting swollen. Like you could see his beard is already gray. Like you can see what this is going to do to him. You can
Well,
see
here's the
it.
thing. Here's the thing. Here's the difference. Here's one reason I think JD, given we only have two choices, if something happens to Donald Trump, it's JD Vance. Why I think JD is not a good choice. He'd be a horrible president, but he's better than Donald Trump. Donald Trump cannot be controlled. He's an incorrigible child. Not even the strongest Republicans in the House or the Senate can control him. He's going to do whatever the fuck he wants to do anytime. JD Vance, on the other hand, has proven that he can be controlled. He can be manipulated. Donnie can be manipulated too if you know how to do it. But he's such a wild card. He's gonna come up with a crazy shit, and he doesn't care. Now, JD Vance is going to have to be a little more aware of how people perceive him because he's in a different situation than Donald Trump. Donald Trump doesn't have to be elected again. So he's got nothing to fucking lose. If JD Vance wants to have a career in politics, he's going to have to settle down. He's going to have to do things the right way and not piss off the Republicans and the Democrats. Like I say, Donald Trump needs to go because he is an absolute disaster. JD Vance is going to be bad, but it's a less bad, at least immediately, than Donald Trump.
Yeah, JD Vance is a slick Willie. During that debate, he to me he was like a psychopath. It was his the lying and how easy and slick with a smile on his face it came out
Yeah.
reminded me of American Psycho, that movie with Christian Bale.
Yeah, you're
And
kind of
I
right.
said that
Yeah.
before. Yeah, it just it was so disturbing. Oh, and my ice maker just went. My ice maker was like, I agree. Um, it yeah. During the debate, we got a glimpse of how disturbing he like the disturbing mask he wears, I guess, because I think it
Yeah.
is a mask. I don't think he actually knows who he is. I think he is a very like chameleon type person. He just becomes what he needs to become, which is that's frightening. And
Yeah.
Americans don't use critical thinking. He can fool a lot of people. That's why I think that's why I say he's dangerous, because he can put on a nice suit and a smile and say his smooth talking stuff, and a lot of people will fall for it. And he did a number on Tim Walz. He really did. He befuddled Tim Walz in that debate a couple of times. Tim got better as he went, but he was so smooth and throwing out those zingers. Tim was like, somewhat discombobulated. Like I said, we can't count him out. For me, he's more dangerous because he's more competent about how to destroy things, and he's young. And how are we going to get him out of there?
Yeah.
They plan on keeping this in the family. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, and because I think Barron is there was a lot of rumors about Barron mutilating animals, and we know what that leads to in adulthood as a child if you hurt an animal. And there was a whole bunch of reports from schoolmates and other nannies about how he hurt squirrels and animals in the neighborhood. He said something to Joe Biden at the inauguration that was really nasty. You
Really?
can't see it, but you only saw Joe Biden's face. But I wanted anyone in the audience to let me know if they saw it too. But he said something that's so nasty to Joe Biden. Joe Biden's whole energy, face, and everything changed. And I thought, yeah, they're grooming Barron. They want JD, Don Jr., Barron. They want to, their whole goal is to keep this all in the family.
Yeah. Barron's just a weirdo. I mean, he's a fucking weirdo. I don't
I
know.
think he's on the spectrum. I would say he's on the spectrum. They deny that, but that would be but the thing is that psychopaths can be created, right? The psychopaths can be, it's not just nature, it's nurture. And so there's something wrong there. Like I said, whatever he said to Joe Biden was so ugly that it literally took Joe Biden's face from smiling and bright to dark, grimaced.
My wife reprimanded me. She was listening to something, and I really didn't go to that extent. So, but I should clarify. I said Barron's a weirdo, and you said he was on the spectrum. And my
Hmm.
wife said, you should never say anybody on the spectrum is a weirdo. And I don't. I know people on the spectrum, and I don't see it as a disability. I see these people are different, but in many ways they're exceptional, more exceptional than a lot of us in certain areas. When I say weirdo, I'm talking about two things, like with Elon Musk, he may be on the spectrum. But when you
They
see
have
what he's
bad
going through,
vibes. Bad vibes.
that that's more drug induced, it seems, with the
Yes.
ketamine
Yes.
and stuff.
Yeah.
And same with Barron. Barron, autistic or not, he was raised by Melania and Donald Trump. Of course he's fucked up.
Yeah, of course. And it's the bad vibes you're picking up on. So I'll
Yeah.
let everybody in on a secret. I'm left-handed. And if you are left-handed, you are automatically neurodivergent.
Really?
Automatic. Yep. Because you're left-handed. Humans are right-handed.
Wow.
And your
I did.
brain automatically works different when you are left-handed. Now, when I grew up, we didn't have that word neurodivergent. And I had some dyslexia issues when I was learning how to read, and that goes along with being left-handed. And as I got older, I grew out of it, but I still have to like read numbers back. Like I can look at a number and it says 47 and I'll be like 74. So I have to read things back and make sure that I see and speak and have everything clear. And you can see at the beginning I got my words all jumbled up, so that can happen to me. So I am so being neurodivergent and left-handed is considered on the autism spectrum. No, I am not autistic, but I am neurodivergent. Do I have creepy vibes? Gosh, I hope not.
No, you don't
Right?
have creepy vibes.
You know, I love everybody and I want everybody to live their best life. And that's not what Elmo and Baron are giving. The energy that is coming off of them, the energy they're giving is creepy, both of them. And I totally agree with you. With Elmo, it's the creepy from the ketamine. With Baron, it's the creepy because he was never emotionally nurtured because no one in his family knows how to do that.
Yeah. From the time I was a little kid, I learned how to read people. And the reason I learned how to read people is because my father was a nutcase, a narcissist, and I was scared to death he was going to go off on the deep end. So I watched him intently. I watched facial expressions. I watched movements. I watched what he said. And when he started to go to the dark side, I found ways to manipulate him to go back because I was terrified. I was 7 or 8 years old. Well, that ability to look closely at somebody and get a sense of who they are just kind of stuck with me. I do it all the time, and it's not something that takes a lot of time to do it. I can tell. I just have a gut feeling. Elon Musk is not a good guy. There's something fucked up there. Donald Trump clearly isn't a good guy, but you don't have to be a genius to do that. Mike Johnson, fucking bad vibe.
Yeah,
Barron Trump, bad vibe. And I'm gonna just say it because people always want to protect her. Melania Trump, fucking
terrible.
bad vibes.
Terrible vibes. And the we're looking a lot at the double Melania. So she has a double, right? And the
Really?
double, yeah, I
That's
can. I
true.
once I spot it, yeah, once I spotted it, now I can't unsee it. So I'll tell everybody how to spot it because once you spot it, you can't unsee it. The nose is totally different. Okay. So typically she'll always have sunglasses on, a hat. So anytime you see her with a very low hat or very big sunglasses, that's not the real Melania. Her hairline is different and her eyes are different. So they need to keep that covered. But she's a lot shorter than the real Melania and she's affectionate. So the real Melania was at Jimmy Carter's funeral. That was her. The Melania here in California, I want everybody to go look. Don't just take my word for it. You go look. The Melania here in California, I think, was the double. Like I said, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And again, this is just my opinion, but the nose is what gives it away and the affection. The real Melania will not touch him. She will not. But also, the real Melania is not much shorter than he is with her heels on. She's right there with him. She's very, very tall. The body double Melania is several inches shorter. So even when she has heels on, he still is a head above her. So that's how you can tell.
You think they do that because she just doesn't like the motherfucker? And
That's exactly why she doesn't want to do it. She already had said many years ago she didn't want to be back in the White House. She did not like being a first lady. I think a lot of famous people have a body double for safety reasons, right? And so, um, like, I don't think she's the only one, but I think for majority of it, it's safety purposes. For her, I think she doesn't want to do it. She don't want to do it.
yeah,
You think she really wanted to come out to California and sit in meetings all day about
No,
wildfires? No,
no.
no.
Unless she had a thing for Gavin Newsom, that might have been the case.
Now, well, Gavin did pop a big kiss on her after he pointed in Orange Menace's face. He went right to Melania and kissed her right on the cheek. There's an epic picture of Gavin with his finger right on the Orange Menace. And the Orange Menace, now this is another conspiracy theory as well. I always will say, if this is my speculation, my conspiracy. So the Orange Menace has a lean forward. Sometimes when you
Yeah,
see him from a profile, so that's a sign of dementia.
he looks like a fat protractor at
Yeah, so
45
that
degrees.
leaning forward, yeah, that is something that happens that is not conscious, that because the balance is affected with dementia. So
Really?
you can see a lot of like the duty to warn, and the people that are experts on social media. Duty to warn, if you're not familiar, is a group of experts who have a Twitter account calling out all of the antisocial personality, that they see in Trump. Um, and they have pointed this out multiple times, that he actually is showing the physical signs of dementia. The number one being the lean forward.
Right. Well, the whole thing with Gavin meeting him at the airport, that was all a mind fuck, wasn't it? Gavin
Yo, yeah,
Newsom. Everything he
yeah,
did was messing with Donald Trump, and it worked.
yeah. It worked. He wouldn't meet with him, so Gavin just showed up on the tarmac. Yeah. And my district, I'm in Ted Lieu's district, and our district has been decimated. I mean, this district is absolutely decimated. I was not in an evacuation zone. I was right on the borderline. We had a stay vigilant for every day for several days while this was happening. But I just saw a big lie today that the new press secretary said, where like they're making up this lie that the water got turned off in California, and that
Yeah.
Trump came out here and demanded the water get turned back on. I want everyone to know that the water was never turned off in the manner of which he's speaking. Now,
Yeah.
in burn areas, there is power and water. That's a different story. But in terms of there being no water or those reservoirs being empty, all of that is total lies. There's an issue with water that's called physics, and water runs down, not up. So when you need water to go up a hill, the pressure of the water goes down the further you go up, right? So water pressure is the same at the top of the hill as it is at the bottom, right? The water pressure was an issue.
Right.
DWP turned off power at some point because they haven't gotten all of the electrical lines underground like they're supposed to. After we had the fire in Paradise that burned down Paradise, which is in Northern California a few years ago, these electric companies in California are supposed to put the power lines underground, and they have not completed that job. And there is actual evidence from a gas station in Altadena where they can see where the fire got started from the power line. So there's been a lot of misinformation about this. There are some of the fires that are arson. There are definitely, and they have people in custody. And there's going to be a big investigation about how this started. But this whole lie about how the reservoirs were empty, the water didn't, there's no water in California, none of that is true. Now, there are people without power and water, but those are people who are in an extreme burn area.
Now, Kristen is in Los Angeles, and of course, there's been a lot of things happening in Los Angeles with the fires. You said you weren't in an evacuation zone, but I was in Los Angeles maybe 2, 3 months ago, and it was typical Los Angeles. It was bustling, it was crazy, it was traffic. Uh, I got a feeling that Los Angeles has a whole different vibe right now than what you're used to.
Oh, it is so, so, so different. And it's hard to even put it into words. It's like maybe Los Angeles 2.0 is emerging,
Oh,
because we can't be superficial. We can't be, um, you know, we have to be community oriented now. And so LA is a huge city that's a lot of small neighborhoods. So while it is this immense city, when you live in your little neighborhood, it's like a small town. And where I live, I know everybody because I walk, right? And I'm friendly. So I know a lot of people in my little town, right? So that's
Right.
the way LA is comprised. So there might be a part of LA that you're in that is totally unaffected by this and you are blissfully unaware except for the air quality or smelling it. Um, but the areas that it hit, specifically the Pacific Palisades, which I could see that morning, I saw that I was driving down my street and I saw that fire up on the hill and I was like, oh, that's very bad. That's very, very bad. When I walked out of my house that morning, all I kept thinking was, this is so bad. It is so windy. It is so hot. This is a disaster. So if you live in LA, you know what these Santa Ana winds are and how dangerous they are. Now, usually at this time of year, they've settled down, but they're a hot wind and they will sweep across the whole Southern California and they can cause a lot of damage. They can cause a lot of down power lines and palm trees. And that morning, there was I walked outside. I was like, something very bad is afoot. And I got in my car and I drove down the street and I saw that fire and I just it was just this ominous energy. There was, for about a week, there was literally like panic and fear in the energy. Like it was like this whole panicked energy that everybody in town had. There was nobody on the street. They were telling everyone, like, don't go to work, stay off the roads. We need the roads open for emergency personnel and for people who need to evacuate. So where I was, we kept getting stay vigilant warnings, which means which meant that you needed to be ready to go, but you didn't have to go, right? But you needed to be ready.
Right.
Um, and the fires were blowing the embers all around town and starting these little fires everywhere. Like a row of palm trees went up not far from where I live because it was just blowing everywhere. But what you're seeing on TV is so different from what's on the ground. What we really need to focus on is that not everybody in the Pacific Palisades or in Altadena is a celebrity or wealthy. There were
Right.
people that had no renter's insurance that just lost everything that are living at the convention center now. And they haven't really talked about that. You don't really see that. And Los Angeles is a blue collar town. It really is. It's a town of working people from all over the place. In some ways, it's a town of misfits. All of us moved out here for our big dream, right?
Right.
So everyone's from somewhere else. So I don't know what Los Angeles 2.0 is going to look like. It just finally rained for 2 days, which really, really helped. Um, but the air quality is really bad. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some sort of respiratory syndrome coming from this. Um, and we got a long road ahead. And I also would not be surprised. Gavin Newsom is not going to, um, he's not going to be bullied by Trump.
Hmm.
And California is the fifth largest economy in the world. And we subsidize all of the red states. Our tax dollars here in California pay for everybody. And if
Right.
California puts in $1 and gets back 75 cents from what we contribute to the federal government, we get less than what we give. And red states can't make it without us. So if we don't get the money from the federal government, my bet would be that Gavin withholds federal payments. Yeah.
That
And
would
I don't
be
think he'll
interesting.
hesitate. I don't think he'll hesitate. I think he'll do it.
What do you think? Donald Trump initially, before he went to Los Angeles, said, and so did Mike Johnson and other people, well, if they want money, there's going to have to be strings attached. They're going to have voter IDs and all this other stuff. They were talking real tough. But when Donald Trump showed up there and Gavin Newsom faced up to him, he seemed to shrink a little bit, telling the fire department, we won't let you down. We'll take care of you. That's what you have to do to Donald Trump. You have to push him back. And
Yeah.
of the people in this country, I mean, if you were to pick out somebody to run for president in 2028, Gavin Newsom would have to be at the top of the charts. Now, we don't know what's going to happen over the next 8 years, but he has all the elements that apparently we need in this country. First of all, he's white. Second of all, he's a man. He's a good looking, articulate, smart guy. I don't know if he'll be the nominee, but if we had to run a race right today, he'd be the guy.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if he announces like soon. I really would not be surprised
That would
if
be
they do.
awesome.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he announces this year sometime or early next year sometime to get in the race early, and to start. And he's been working on this for a long time. He didn't want to overshadow Biden, which is why he didn't run before. But he was a great Biden surrogate, and they made a comment, Mike Johnson and some other GOP fools, about how they don't like our lifestyle. They don't appreciate our lifestyle. Well, I don't appreciate your lifestyle in Louisiana. I don't agree with your lifestyle there. I don't agree with your lifestyle in your red state. So just because I don't approve of your lifestyle doesn't mean that I think that you should suffer. I still think you should live your absolute best life. I might not agree with how you live your life and what your beliefs are, but that's what America is. You're allowed to be who you want to be. Okay.
Yeah,
We
if you
all
want
don't
to, if
have
you
to agree with how each other's lifestyles are. That that's not our business, really.
well, if you want to go out and marry your cousin and have a brood of kids with your cousin,
Go ahead.
do
Be
your
my guest.
thing. Do your
Mhm.
thing. Yeah, yeah. That's they've always got an excuse every time they want to argue with somebody, and I think it's important, whether it be Gavin Newsom, whoever, that they get on this presidential train right away. I mean, we
I
had Kamala
agree.
Harris. She built a great amount of enthusiasm in three
Mhm.
months. If she would have had 6 months or 9 months, it might have been a different story. Unless, of course, the Republicans just gamed the system so much that she was never going to win. I don't know, but um, this is one of the problems I have with Democrats, and maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe I'm just not seeing it. We had the election, they got beat, they took the House, they took the Senate. My impression of Democrats is they're going, well, what the hell? They're not doing anything. And I think we have to take a note from their book. We have to start getting loud, like you said. We have to start talking every day, every time. Every time they screw up, every time they do something egregious, we've got to be in the narrative constantly. And I don't know if all Democrats have a stomach for that, but that's what it's going to take.
Yes, and you have to have self-care, right? Because you can burn out this way, and that's why you have to take good care of yourself. And that's part of their tactic is they want to exhaust us so that we just give up. I think some Democrats, like I said, are compromised. I think others know that they don't have the numbers, so what's the point? I think there's a whole bunch of reasons as to why certain Democrats are acting the way they're acting. Um, but what's bothering me is that um, we don't have good messaging. Republicans are lockstep in their messaging. They get their talking points, they start tweeting them, they get on TV and they repeat them. Every time I talk to my mom, she repeats back to me all the talking points from Fox News because she's
Right.
heard them so many times that she just regurgitates them and regurgitates them, right? And one of the reasons I'm good at reading people is because I grew up with a family of racist Republicans who every night at the dinner table were making fun of Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, and I saw through it from the beginning. It never fooled me, not for 1 second. Same as you, Boomer. I had narcissistic, uh, alcoholic, rageaholic, anti-feminine, racist growing up, and for some reasons, by the grace of God, it never clicked with me. I always saw right through it. Um, there is one point I want to make about Al Sharpton, though. This Greg Palast that I talked about, that is the statistician and the and wrote this article for the New York Times about how the election was stolen via voter suppression. He is meeting with Al Sharpton to bring these results to him because it was Black voters that were more disenfranchised than anyone else. So I do think that we will hear about it more. It will come to mainstream because Al Sharpton is still on MSNBC, Fox News, CNN. He's still on all of those shows, right? But
Right.
I was
Right.
taught as a child that was the enemy. Okay.
Right.
That was the
So was
enemy.
I.
Yeah.
I was told, when I was like 7 years old, before Martin Luther King was killed, was it 68 he was killed? Like
Mm.
66, 67. I had a friend whose dad was from Iowa and he was a redneck fucker. And he told me two things. He said, he said, Martin Luther King's a criminal. I go, how do you know he's a criminal? Well, he's been in jail. I'm 7. Okay, he's been in jail. He must be a criminal. And then he told me that in the Bible, it says that Black people are meant to be subservient to us and to be slaves. I told my mom that. My mom was a fairly quiet person, not aggressive or anything. She called that motherfucker up and tore him a new one. You do not tell my kids that bullshit. And but as I've said before, in the 60s and 70s, racism was common. It was accepted. You know, somebody said the N word, they go, "Oh, don't swear," but it was accepted. And we have to understand that we're in different times now, and they want us to go back to those times. And we progressed, and we need to stop that.
Yeah. And my mom says things like that. And I actually say to her, Poppy had to get you a bank account. You couldn't even go get your own bank account. You had to be married to rent an apartment. If it wasn't for Ruth Bader Ginsburg, you wouldn't have ever had your own bank account. Okay.
Right.
So back in the 60s and 70s, for the younger people in the crowd, women could not go get their own bank account. Your dad had to open it for you or your husband. You couldn't have your name on your own bank account. And if it wasn't for Ruth Bader Ginsburg, we would still be like that. And when they say make America great again, they're talking about a fictional time from the 1950s that never existed with the Ozzie and Harriet and the mom at home. They're talking about some time in the past that was never even real. It was only just a TV show.
Right.
And it never existed. And yes, that's what they want to go back to. And the really crazy thing is that my mom was a career woman, a single mom who had to make something out of herself, but yet listen to Rush Limbaugh in the morning on the way to work, who told her, go back home and take care of your family.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling, the cognitive dissonance. I guess that's the cognitive dissonance. But yes, they want to go back to a time that never existed. And when they say make America great again, they mean make America white again.
Absolutely.
That's really what they mean. Okay. And I wrote this on Blue Sky, but I want to make this clear so that everybody knows every single woman is a DEI hire. Every single woman. White men who are Catholic, Jewish, or gay are also DEI hires, because the only person who's not a DEI hire is a white, heterosexual, Protestant male. Okay? The evangelicals do not believe Catholics are saved. I've had them say it to my face. I was raised Catholic. Okay? So we need to be clear about the only people who are not DEI hires, the only people that they believe should be employed. That's the only people who should have meaningful employment are white, men, heterosexual, and Protestant.
You know, it's ironic is everything you just listed there is what I am, but those motherfuckers would never hire me if they knew what I was talking about. That's the one thing about doing this rational boomer stuff that is so heartening to me is people look at me as kind of a unicorn, this old white guy who has a liberal bent to it. But if you look at the people who are following TikTok or the podcast, a lot of guys look like me that have a rational thought, that have a reasonable mind. There are a lot of old white guys that just suck. I know a million of them, but thankfully there are some. And we've been able to bring some of those together, and hopefully it gives us some power and some direction in the future, because we've been dragged down by old white people for a long time. They've thwarted progress, and it's getting so tiring. You know, when I see somebody my age saying and doing the things they do, it's so frustrating because I'm your age. I lived the same years. I lived in the same places, went to the same schools. How can you be so dumb?
I mean, I'm devastated what happened to my parents. I'm absolutely devastated. And I know I'm not the only one that lost their parents to this MAGA cult, and I don't even know who the heck they are. It's very upsetting. And
so do you talk to them at all anymore?
I do, but limited, because they are full in the cult. They are members of the country club. That's how deep in the cult they are. They're members of his country clubs. I say clubs. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're that deep. So yes, I do have a relationship with them, but it has dramatically changed because I can't trust them. I
No,
can
you
only
can't.
trust them to a certain extent. And my stepdad is a really good man. And on April 20th of 2020, he told me COVID was a Democratic hoax. And that was the day I knew he was gone.
Yeah.
That was the day I knew that the man that I loved, that had raised me, gone.
What do you think it is that takes supposedly intelligent people to get sucked into this? I mean, I can hear him talk from the moment he took office in 2017 to now. And I know he was full of shit. I knew he was stupid. I knew he was a bad guy. Why do some people get sucked into this?
That is the $1 million question. They, because secretly they like it, and maybe not so secretively. They like the tough or perceived tough. They like that he wants to hurt people that they dislike.
Wow.
They like it. Cruelty is the point. And I've made this comment on Blue Sky as well, where like, oh, they're going to find out now. No, they're not going to find out anything. They're happy to see people that they don't like get hurt. They love that. Okay. So, and I'm the same way, where I was a little girl and my grandma used to watch Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. This is my other side of the family. They are past, they were Democrats. And my grandpa, I think I've talked about him on the show. Ronald Reagan never fooled him. When I was little, and Ronald Reagan was in office, he said, we elected an actor, and that's what we got, an actor. And
Right.
everybody fell for it. And he's like, he's going to destroy the middle class. He's going to take women's rights away. You just watch. I mean, my grandpa called it, I mean, in 1985. And so I watched Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous when I was a little girl. And I mean, I was an itty bitty girl. I mean, just 5, 6 years old. And I remember Donald Trump talking about his baby daughter, Tiffany, in a sexual way. And I remember my mom saying, if a man ever gives you an uh-oh feeling, if a stranger ever gives you an uh-oh, you tell me, right? If you ever have a weird feeling from an adult, and I went and told my grandma and I that this man, the first man that I ever stated out loud gave me an uh-oh feeling, was Donald Trump on Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, sitting next to Marla Maples, talking about their baby daughter Tiffany in a sexual manner. And
Wow.
as a little girl, and I saw that, I knew something was very, very wrong with him. I still remember it to this day. I remember, and you can go watch the clip. It's disgusting. Yeah,
Wow.
it's disgusting. So I don't know why some people can't see through it. Some people are not perceptive. Some people can't read vibes. Some people, like I said, like it. He wants to hurt people that they dislike. Some white men think he's a tough guy, and they have no personality of their own. Their only personality is their truck and their flag and their gun, and they've never
Right.
done any type of self-healing or self-exploration or any type of work on themselves to be a better person. They don't care about being a better person. They don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. I break it down in simpler, more uh, less sophisticated terms. I've said that I find it very disconcerting that we have close to half of the country that are clearly stupid. I mean, I tell
I
people, I
don't
say,
think
look,
it's that many though. I don't, that's what I'm saying. I think it's fabricated. I think it's a lot less than half. I don't think as many people betrayed us like we thought. It's still way too many. It's still way too many. But I don't think, based on what this man Greg is saying, that it's that many.
well, you're right. If we look at the full population of this country, what 340 million, and the
Mm-hmm.
amount of people that voted for Donald Trump was like 77 million. So we're
Mm-hmm.
talking maybe a third of the country. But
Right.
they
Yes.
are categorically fucking stupid. If you've seen what
Yes.
you've seen, heard what you've heard, know what you know, and you still voted for him, I told Trump looked like this. I said, you're either stupid or evil. And since
Yeah.
I'm a glass half full guy, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
take the positive route and say you're a dumb fuck because I hope to God you're not evil, but who knows?
I mean, like I said, it's both. It just depends on the person. But the thing we have to understand is that it's a cult. And I know I sound like a broken record. I feel like I just say it over and over again. It is a cult where you are inspired to be your worst self and rewarded for doing so. I watched a whole, it's on YouTube. I got to find the link because I reference it a lot and I need to have the link for people. I'll see if I can find it. It was sociologists and psychologists on a panel. And this was during his administration, where they talked about this cult and the phenomenon that it was and how it thrives on being your worst self. And it just like clicked with me. When they started explaining it, I was like, ah, it made so much sense. So
Yeah,
in LA, there are a lot of little cults here. Yoga studios are little cults, a lot of them. I'm not kidding. They'll
really.
have little cult leaders, yes. And they never fooled me for 1 second either. I can take how many yoga studios wanted me to be a member of their cult. I never fall for it. And so it's you're either that type of person or you're not, right? I was never going to fall for anybody's little cult. And there are a lot of these little yoga spiritual cults and all this kind of stuff around LA. And I just it I was never going to fall for it. But I have a friend that she fell for it every time. Every time she falls into the stupid. And in 2016, she thought, well, maybe we want to have a businessman, and I think maybe he loves his family.
Yeah.
I was like, he has literally trashed his father's fortune and just declares bankruptcy over and over again. He trashes every business he ever starts.
And he never raised any of his kids. I mean, they've said it.
No,
Don Jr., Eric, and Ivanka. He was never around when they were being raised. I guarantee you, he never
no,
changed a diaper on Barron.
no,
He
no,
doesn't even
never.
change his own motherfucking diapers. So
No.
why would he change Barron's diapers?
And remember when Ivanka has said that they had no money, and that one time they were walking down the street after one of his bankruptcies when she was a little girl, and he pointed to a homeless man and he was like, he's got more money than we do.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. And Don Jr., when he got divorced from Ivana, there was some accusations of domestic violence that were in the divorce filings, and Don Jr. didn't
Right.
speak to him for several years. Yeah.
Right. Till he was
So,
became president and or needed a job.
yeah.
Um,
The
I wanted to
Apprentice
bring
or
up some.
whatever, because the Apprentice was all
Yeah,
fabricated too. None of them had those jobs. That was all just created.
and it sounds like I think you mentioned it that that boardroom was just a
Hmm.
fabricated boardroom because his
Yeah.
actual boardroom looks like a shithole.
Yes, it was totally shabby. So if anyone hasn't seen me on the show before, if this is your first time seeing me, I was a television producer for many years in reality TV. I now still do a little bit of that, but mostly I do holistic healing and I'm a Reiki master. And I have a lot of friends that worked on The Apprentice, and the offices for at Trump Towers were so bad and so ugly and so shabby that they had to build the fake boardroom, and the kids didn't run everything. There were actually real employees that had those jobs, but they gave the kids the fake jobs so for the
Right.
show. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say something, and I don't want you to take offense to it. It's kind of a joke. One of the uh, one of the reality shows that you did was a Real Housewife show, right?
Yes.
And I watched the Real Housewives show. I can't watch it because those are fucking horrible people. They're
Horrible.
pigs. They're horrible people. And it's my contention people that get sucked into watching Real Housewives, they're almost a cult too.
Without a doubt. And I had an attack of conscience. That's why I left
Really?
that career. Yeah. Um, what was happening behind the scenes and the mental health of those women was not good. And I worked on a show called Dance Moms, and that was the final straw for me.
That was a
That
bad
was one
one too.
that was one of the final straws for me. It was so toxic. And I worked a couple shows after that. I actually said in an interview, I can't say the show, but I said in an interview, if you want me to destroy or ruin this, what they were planning for the show, I was like, I'm not going to do that. I was like, I'm not doing that. I was like, if this show is about setting these people up for them to fail, which is what I'm guessing this is going to be, I was like, I'm not going to do that. And they were like, oh, no, 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 no. Well, I didn't get the job. And then when the show came out, that was exactly what it was. The reason why they didn't hire me was because they knew that I knew. But I
Wow.
had to go on a healing journey of myself. I worked 80 hours a week. I traveled all the time. I did win a daytime Emmy and I won a Prism Award, which highlights
Wow.
disabilities in a positive way. And the episode that won the Prism Award was my episode. I filmed it, I did everything. I was a one-man show for that episode. And it was an incredible episode, and I was very proud. But the shows and the way the genre went did not align with my values. And that was why I left. And also, like I said, being burned out. And I had to go on a healing journey myself to heal, working 80 hours a week in a job that was not in alignment with my soul. And so I had to heal myself, which is how I became a healer.
Well, and didn't the teacher and dance moms end up in fucking jail or something?
Yes, she was embezzling money. She got on a plane with a bunch of cash, got on a private plane and flew to Australia. And then she got cancer, and she's lucky she lived. She got a very, very serious form of cancer and was in a wheelchair for a while.
Wow. Yeah, I can see why you'd want to get the hell out of there.
Yeah,
These are some despicable people. My wife will
yeah,
watch it for the joke of it, and she doesn't buy
yeah,
into it. I'll stand there and I'll go, "These people are pigs." You
yeah,
know, I've always said to her, I said, "Honey, I'll give you the premise of the show. They go on a trip together. They get in a horrendous fight. They come home. They're talking shit about each other, and then they plan another fucking trip.
yeah,
It's pretty
yeah,
fucking simple.
yeah.
They want the arguing and the fighting, and these women
Yes.
just give it to them every goddamn time.
Well, we put them in a position for that to happen. So a lot of times people would ask me if it was scripted. No, it's not scripted. However, we could create situations for certain things to happen, right?
Yeah.
And when you're exhausted and you're not at home and the cameras have been in your face, there's this weird thing that happens where they forget the cameras are there. It doesn't take very long either. They do forget. And
Wow.
so then everything starts to, to come out. Um, but I think that it just, I felt like that isn't who I am, and I can't continue. And I don't watch any of those shows anymore. I can't watch The Real Housewives anymore. And I know a lot of the girls who were dancers and dance moms, they just had a reunion, and I know it was really cathartic. These girls have a lot of healing to do. They were very, very abused in their situation.
Mm.
Being a dancer as a young girl is very, very demanding and then when you add the cameras on top of it, um, yeah,
And the
so
fucked
there's
up people?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Jojo Siwa, who's one of the breakout stars from that, I know that the other people on the show weren't very happy with her because she didn't really get the negativity that the other girls got, right? She became like the breakout star. Not all of them became the breakout star, right? And
Right.
if you didn't win and your name went to the bottom of the pyramid,
Right.
yeah, that's a lot for an 8-year-old.
That is a lot for an 8-year old. I wouldn't wish that on any kid. You know, we were talking about this before we started. There is a story out now. We know that Donald Trump wants to get people out of working from home and into the offices in the federal government. He wants to control everything, be the puppet master. And I just read a story that said that for anybody who doesn't want to come back and work in the office, um, we'll buy out your contract, give you 7 months' pay, and send you on your way. Why is a president of the United States even involved in something like this? It just makes no sense.
I know. And I just read that, and my first thought was, where's the money coming for this buyout? But it
Exactly.
goes, yeah, who's going to pay for that? Where's the money coming from that? How much is that going to cost? Where's the budget for that? Let me see it in where's the red line for the budget? Because right now we're on a continuing resolution, right? They just keep kicking it down the road.
Right.
So, what I was saying before is that ultimately they want to send Congress home. They want martial law. They don't want any of the inspector generals. They don't want any government oversight. They don't want any whistleblowers. And so they want it to be what's going with people in the White House controlling everything. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's what they want.
That's yeah. I just saw that they're going to have the confirmation hearings for RFK on Wednesday or Thursday, maybe Thursday, and then Tulsi Gabbard on Friday, and Cash Patel too on Friday.
They're probably all going to get confirmed too. With the fact they confirmed Pete Hegseth gives me no
Yeah,
confidence that any of them will get denied.
but doesn't it make sense? I heard somebody else talking about this. at this point, I mean, it might have been Rashkin or somebody along those lines. At this point, the only reaction um, the Democrats have to do is just to try to block everything, everybody, and everything. I mean, the idea that there were Democrats that voted for Hegseth or voted for um, what's her name? There's a Bondi,
Tulsi. Oh yeah,
Chelsea.
Pam Bondi. Yeah.
The fact that the Democrats voted for them tells me something. They have no integrity.
Yeah.
They're going to try to play as nice as they can with Donald Trump, so their life is easier and they can continue with their jobs. That's the big problem when it comes to these confirmation hearings. Um, I don't know if I trust most Democrats to do the right thing. They'll do the thing that's most expeditious for themselves.
Yeah. And that's why we're in a world of hurt. And that's why I'm going to say over and over again, call them, call them, call them, call them. Call your congressman, call your senators, call Hakeem Jeffries, call Chuck Schumer, and tell them to do something. If when the shoe is on the other foot, they block us every which way they can. Why are we singing Kumbaya with them? Why?
Yeah, yeah, good point.
And like I said, there is a script on my Blue Sky, Kristen Healer, if you're not sure what to say. But when I call, I say, hi, I'm Kristen. I'm in California. You say the district that you're in, who your congressman is, right? So if you're calling not your congressman, but somebody else, like if you're calling your senator, you say the district you're from. And you say, the reason why I'm calling is I'm demanding action that you start fighting the illegal, immoral, and un American policies of this administration. We voted for you and elected you not to be complicit, not to bend the knee, and not to acquiesce to a dictator. We expect you to fight every step of the way. I want to see you on TV and I want to see you on Capitol Hill speaking up. That's what you need to say to them. Whatever issue is important to you, you can bring up that specific issue. And if you need a script, go to Kristen Healer on Blue Sky and get the script off my page.
And I think your point is that you or I could call, and that's not going to make a difference. But if 1,000 people, or 2,000 people, or 5,000 people call, they have to sit up and take notice. I mean, that's reasonable. And people always say to me, "What can we do? What can we do?" Well, the one thing you could have done is not vote for Donald Trump. But since we're beyond that, um, all we can do is be loud and keep trying to control what's going on in the narrative. And people say, "Is that all we can do?" Yeah, you put us here. This
Yeah,
is all we can do. So
we
let's
do.
fucking do it.
But if 200,000 people call, 2 million people call, 20 million people call, that's why do you think John McCain put thumbs down for the AC for getting rid of Affordable Care Act? Because of how many phone calls his office got. I forget the number. I think it was something like 2 million. I'm not
Wow.
kidding. It was a huge, huge number. And that's what you have to do. Put the number in your phone so you have it. And you need to call the local office, right? So if you are in Minnesota, you need to call your congressman's office in Minnesota. There is a good chance that someone will answer the phone. I've called Ted Lieu's office multiple times and they answer the phone. I talk to them because I'm a constituent, I'm in the district, and I'm calling his office right down the street. Do not call them in DC unless you're calling Hakeem or Chuck Schumer. Then you can call their DC number. You need to call, and your whatever were your senators, you need to call their state offices, not the federal office. You're more likely to be heard because there's less people calling that number. Okay. The other thing people can do is if you have been thinking about being a content creator, you need to make an account now. You need to get on Blue Sky. You need to make a YouTube page. If you have even been remotely inspired by Boomer, you need to do something. If you feel you have a voice and you have a point of view that is valuable and you want to share it, we need more democratic voices. They have podcasts, they have influencers, they have mainstream media. They've taken it over. We have nothing. We have no influencers, no big podcasts. We have zilch. So if you have even remotely thought about being a creator, now is the time. Get on Blue Sky. They're going to have an Instagram version soon of it called Flash. They're going to have live streaming soon. You're going to get on the ground floor. If you've been thinking about making a YouTube channel and Boomer has inspired you to get your voice, make your channel. Start being a creator. Don't be scared. start getting your points of view in order, what you want to say, and put your voice out there.
They're I don't know if you looked at that other platform. I'm on Blue Sky, and basically what I do is, you know, right now with videos, they've got to be under a minute. So I basically put a link to my YouTube for the shorter videos.
Yeah.
And that works all right. I got a little traction there. But my friend also in Los Angeles, Abe Won't Be Silent Gurko, who's been on the show a number of times, he says, you got to go on Substack. And I go, I can write, but I don't want to write. I'm too lazy for that. And then I found out you could put on videos.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, all right, Abe asked me to, I'll just do it. I put the videos on there, and I just, when I got kicked off of Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
I thought, fuck, I'll just put it on Substack now. And believe it or not, in a fairly short time, I got 5,500 followers. I'm going,
Wow.
shit.
That's
I'm going, shit.
amazing.
It was surprising to me. So I thought, well, okay. One thing I like about Substack and Blue Sky, it's more bare bones, not as much fancy bullshit, not as
Yeah.
much, of the stuff you see on TikTok. I'm almost at the point with TikTok that I've almost had enough. I mean, because it's not the same as it was. They seem to be complicit with the Republicans now after Donald Trump allegedly saved them. I look at platforms like donuts. They all have a shelf life. No matter how
Yeah.
popular they are,
Yep.
they will go away eventually. Facebook is well
Yep.
past its shelf life. So is
Well,
Instagram.
yep.
Um,
We all
I
were on
think
MySpace. We all were friends with Tom. Where's Tom now? Where's MySpace now? Nowhere, gone.
exactly, and I think that's what will happen with TikTok. So you got to stay ahead of the curve and stay on those things. And I don't know that Substack and Blue Sky are the answers to that. Well, what I like about those two platforms is that they seem to be run by decent people who don't have a political agenda. It's just an
Yeah.
opportunity to go out and say what we
Yeah.
want to say, and that's all we're asking. We're not
Yes.
asking you to favor us. Just
Yeah.
don't
Don't throttle
diminish
our
what
the
we're doing.
content. Exactly. Just don't throttle our content. And I think a lot of dem creators have gotten their content throttled on TikTok. I have, and I'm not on TikTok, so I just see the spillover on YouTube and on Instagram, because
Right.
a lot of people repost and you'll see a lot of stitched TikToks there. So you get like a general idea of what's going on over there. It's from what I was seeing in that time that they were down, they like switched servers, and they also changed the algorithm. So it got
They seem
totally
to.
like, yeah, that's what I was seeing from creators that were that know about IT and stuff that were on Instagram and YouTube. I totally agree. All social media has a shelf life, and Jack Dorsey, what he created with Twitter used to be so awesome. So I've been deleting all my tweets. I had thousands of thousands. I used to be super active on Twitter. And I lost like thousands of Twitter followers like the days following Elmo buying it. So many people left. Um, but we used to have so much fun on Twitter. And it was
Yeah.
before it turned into even what it was like in, back, I'm talking like back in like 2010, 2012, 2015. We used to have meetups on there. We used to watch TV shows and all live tweet. I totally forgot that when I was deleting all my tweets, I was reading all these when I watched TV shows and we'd all tweet together. And so Jack didn't completely screw us over when he sold Twitter to Elmo. He created Blue Sky as what Twitter was supposed to be: open
Right.
sourced community board, no advertising, no shenanigans. So the person and the people that run Blue Sky, from what I've seen, want to keep that model. Yes, they do want to expand. They want to have live streaming. They're going to create Flash, which will be an Instagram type platform. But it's what, like, I went to X today because I haven't deleted my accounts yet. I'm on the fence if I actually want to delete them. I went there because I just wanted to see what MAGA was saying about Snap, and the content was totally throttled. I searched Snap, couldn't get any kind of feel of what the threads were. So he's throttled all the content over there. So um, it doesn't feel like Blue Sky's so manipulated. I guess that's the word. It
Right.
doesn't feel like
Right.
it's manipulated right now. And I've heard good things about Substack. I'm not such a a prolific writer. I used to write more, but I don't know what I could do there. I didn't know they had video, so that's good to know. But I'm glad that you're expanding, because the more people you reach, the better.
Well, I tell you this about Substack. I didn't know much about it, and I knew it was basically a platform where people wrote. I know that Abe wrote and some other people. I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm too lazy. If I write something, it's in my head, and then I say it, um, and I'm not going to sit and type it out. So I went on there and I was watching, and people kept saying go there. Then I just started putting videos out there. I thought, all right, motherfucker, I'll just put videos out there. I'll show you it's not going to work. And it did work to a certain extent. And guess what? You can do live streams on there too. You don't have to have a
Oh,
million
okay.
followers. I
Okay.
did I did one live stream on there for about a half hour. It was kind of cool. I
Yeah.
had, I didn't have as many as TikTok. I do some live streams on YouTube now and again. When I get
Hmm.
really lazy, I'll do a live stream on TikTok and bring in some of the TikTok people that have been on the show and take questions from other people. I'll do the live and then I'll record it and make it the podcast. So um, I'm impressed by Substack and Blue Sky. I think
Hmm.
at least we've got some outlets other than
Yeah.
what we've got now. And YouTube for me has always been the standby. I've
Yeah.
got a fair amount of followers on YouTube, but it takes a while to build it up. But it's pretty solid. They don't fuck with you. You do what you do, and on TikTok they're going to come at you with community violations, or to give you a violation to take you out of the creator fund, and it's just kind of messy. I mean, they always hit me up with originality originality
Hmm.
violations, and I
That's
go,
weird.
how? Well, it's not weird when you think about it, because there are at least 15 or 20 imposters of me.
Oh, no, that's why you're getting it. Oh,
That's why
okay.
I'm getting. And I,
Okay.
and I've gone to TikTok and I've said, this ain't me. They're taking my name, they're taking my content, and they're going after my followers to try to sell them crypto or some bullshit. And
Hmm.
they say, nope, no violation, no violation. These motherfuckers will come up in my own content and start talking
Wow.
to people. It's just,
Wow.
it's just
They
unbelievable.
I've seen that YouTube creators say that as well. Like, it's not me in the comments trying to tell you my WhatsApp. Like, I would never approach you in the comments with my Venmo, or they're just scammers everywhere. Well, I'm glad to hear you're on Substack. I will definitely check it out. I know there are a lot more people that are creating on Substack, and I keep seeing it more and more. And I
I
like
think
that
it might be a good
it's a
platform
growing
for you, though.
platform. Yeah, I do. That's what I'm saying. I like that it's a growing platform too. Like I said, I feel like I found something on Blue Sky because, like I said, I had retreated from everything else because it wasn't resonating with me. But I'll check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great platform. I'm starting to like it. I'm going to do some more lives over there and see what happens. So we're going to wrap things up, but we're in a fucking mess right now with all the things that Donald Trump is doing. The first 2 weeks has been absolutely chaotic, which was by design. What do you think happens here going forward? I mean, does the chaos continue for the next month or two? Does it slow down? Do the Democrats
It's not
do anything?
sustainable. It's not sustainable. I don't think it's not sustain. The way he's going like this with the fire hose is not sustainable. We'll see the Democrats rise up a little bit, but they don't have the numbers. I don't think we can be surprised when, and I said this when he got elected on here on the show, I'm like, the atrocities that we're going to see are going to be mind boggling. And so it's going to be really important to find balance within ourselves, where you need to take care of your own self and be mindful of what's happening, because we can't look away. We can never look away. We cannot spiritually bypass or ignore what's happening. We must be aware that democracy dies in the dark. So it's a balance for ourselves that we can live our best life regardless of what's happening. We have to be an advocate for those that are going to be under the microscope, right? We have to, if undocumented people, like I said, I would tell undocumented people they need to leave. I
Yeah.
would tell them they need to go. Yeah,
When you
it's not
talked about
safe.
atrocities, and I agree with you, there are going to be some atrocities. As it is, we know he's sending planes to Brazil with
Mm-hmm.
80 illegal immigrants, and we know that the president of Colombia didn't accept the plane because when they opened the doors to the plane in Brazil, these people were shackled by their hands
Yeah,
and
they
by
said
their
they were
feet.
bruised. I know they had been beaten and everything. That's what I'm saying. Where it's already starting.
Once these atrocities become apparent and they show up in the media or on social media, is there a point that Republicans, whether it be the voters or the politicians, say, "Fuck, that's enough"? I mean, I
I
I
hope so.
I
I
can't support that.
sincerely hope so. God, I hope so. It took time over in Germany, though. They didn't believe it there. It took time. It took pictures coming to, um, what was it? Winston Churchill. No one believed it. Everybody
Really?
was hearing it. And they brought Winston Churchill pictures, proof.
Wow.
And he
Wow.
started sounding the alarm. He did not, no one believed it was really happening. Okay. It was like, no way. Same thing like, how can we possibly have concentration camps in America? Well, guess what? They're in Texas. They've been building them, they've been planning them. They're going to put people in them. And it is absolutely unimaginable, un American, immoral, and wrong on every level to treat a human being like that. And that's why I'm saying do not look away. We cannot have our white privilege have us ignore, which I'm seeing a lot too. I've been going after white ladies. I can't tell you how many white ladies saying, "Oh, you're only oppressed if you let someone oppress you."
Not
I
true.
no. With your white lady white privilege, and I've seen a lot of spiritual ladies say that, and I just beyond. There are a lot of spiritual white ladies on YouTube that are in utter denial. They are literally the 2020ers who think Kamala is going to be president next week. They think something huge is going to happen and they're all going to be gone and Kamala's going to come in. It's ridiculous. And
I
so that's
felt
what,
bad. I felt bad when I was watching TikTok and you had all these astrologers and psychics and stuff saying, "Oh, it's just coming. Something big's happening. This happened and this happened, so it's happening." And I kept saying to people, if that were true, I would fucking love it. I'd
me
be
too.
glad to say I was wrong.
Me
But
too.
let's look at the history with the Democrats and Donald Trump. It's not going to happen. You
No.
sound like a Trump-la-fuck saying that in
Yep.
August Donald Trump will be back in office. Stop
Yep.
it.
They're still doing it. I call them dreaming women in denial. So there was this one lady that coined the term dreaming women because we were all up all night on
Yeah.
we were up all night on election night and we knew there was something going on. So many women knew, we knew. And so there's this one lady who I'm not going to say her name, but it's an oxymoron, her name. Okay, it's literally an oxymoron. And she's on TikTok and YouTube every day saying that Kamala's going to be in office next week and we're dreaming women and we know. And there are thousands and thousands of women in the comments saying, "Oh yeah, she's going to be in next week." I wrote several comments saying, "Are you telling any women to actually do something? When have you said to call your congressman? When have you said to actually do something? Pulling your tarot cards, using your dowsing rods, or something about Mars retrograde, it does not matter. Okay, stop. You're gaslighting people. You are a grifter. You are not ethical at all if you're doing that."
And now people have to understand when you say something like when I say that it's just a big dumb white guy that doesn't believe in psychics. I do believe in psychics. I believe a lot of those psychics are phony.
Are
I think
grifters.
there
Yep.
I think there are some people who literally have that gift. But you're a
Yeah.
pretty spiritual woman. You were
Yes, I'm in these groups.
reality TV. Yeah, you're in
Yeah.
these groups.
Yeah. They're completely delusional and I'm calling them out because they are not helping anything. And I was in the camp of he hasn't been inaugurated yet. Joe Biden is still president. We're going to wait and see what happens. We're not
Right.
freaking out until he gets inaugurated, right? Joe Biden is still president. We're not going to freak out with everything when it's just catastrophizing things and nothing has happened yet. But it's happened now. He has
Yeah.
been inaugurated. And if you are going on YouTube with your dowsing rods or your pendulum and you are asking for money and you are telling your subscribers that Kamala's going to be in office next week, that your guides are telling you this, or the pendulum or the dowsing rod, you are nothing more than a grifter. Okay? You're
Absolutely.
nothing more than a
Absolutely.
grifter. And I have no problem calling out the white spiritual women because it is so infuriating to me. And like I said, then there's the other one saying, "No one can oppress you unless you want to be oppressed."
Yeah.
This is white privilege, cognitive dissonance, and grifter all wrapped into one. And yes, there are real psychics that are very ethical and that can see energies, right? No one can predict the future. Nobody. That's not possible. Things, we have free will, things can change, but you can read energy and you can get a feeling of it. But if you start to use that in a way of milking your subscribers out of money, giving them false hope, lying to them, getting thousands and thousands of views, I have a problem with that. And I'm going to say something. Like I said, I've been calling them all out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Kristen, I want to thank you for coming by. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. I mean, it's always a pleasure with all the guests, but we don't see you as frequently, so it's a special treat to have you stop by. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I like to come on when I have something to say. So I always reach out to you when I feel like I've built up enough inside that I have something to contribute. But thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much for watching everybody and for being a part of this community. And I'm just sending everyone lots of love.
Well, I will tell you this, Kristen, you don't have to wait till you have something special to say, because there are
Thank
many
you.
days I come in here that I don't have something special to say. So you're helping me out when I have
Thank
those days.
you.
So don't hesitate to come on whenever you feel like it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Lots of love, everybody. Namaste.
All right. For those of you listening, thanks very much for the time you take to listen. I hope you have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.